There's an article from the New York Times that is stating that Deshaun Watson is acting in an advisory role and taking rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders under his wing. Yeah, we got some issues with that, and we'll talk about it. Browns 3D on the OBR begins now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody who comes on out to the OBR daily for the best Cleveland Brown written content from your favorite writers, or you join us evenings, 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, beginning with Browns 3D. You will have Jacob and Sam Panics breaking down some film at 7 o'clock. Make sure you stick around for that. And of course, as always, make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the OBR over on Twitch. We're going to get to the Pittsburgh Steelers and obviously what went on with them today, because Steelers are certainly making things interesting. And I'm not sure if it's interesting in a positive way or a negative way. But from the New York Post, basically an article written on how Deshaun Watson is attempting to serve in a mentor capacity to Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. First off, this article probably seems like an absolute crock, because if any of this were going on, or if it was a storyline, you're telling me that this would not have come first from Cleveland media, the Mary Kay Cabots of the world, the Zach Jacksons of the world. So I'm not giving it much credence, but it's the height of the offseason. Let's have a little fun with it. From what we know of where Deshaun Watson stands right now with the Cleveland Browns, is he's showing up to the facility every day, doing his workouts. He tried to come outside during mandatory minicamp. He was asked to go back inside. When he works out is usually at times when most of the team is not present. I mean, I get it. It's the height of off season. There isn't exactly a lot to report on. And maybe this Deshaun Watson piece, claiming the fabrication that, he's trying to work with Shedeur Sanders comes from the same pieces that are saying that maybe Deshaun Watson will be ready to go in practice come October, which I don't think any of us truly believe. The Browns will do the admirable thing, because they have to, and continue to pay Shedeur Sanders his money this year and next. But there is zero to the fact that Deshaun Watson is going to serve in any type of mentor capacity to the young signal caller out of Colorado. Even if this was going on, Deshaun Watson is extremely active on social media through his Instagram account, basically documenting every damn second of his life. We know Shedeur Sanders is very active with his social media. If this were a thing, wouldn't there have been an interaction by now? A picture? Something suggesting that there was some legitimacy of Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders working in a mentor-protege relationship. I mean, who are we kidding? I don't want Shedeur Sanders within 100 miles of Deshaun Watson. First things first, Shedeur Sanders' father, Dion, there's no more mentor you would need if you're Shedeur Sanders. NFL Hall of Famer, one of the greatest individual athletes that ever lived. So, yeah, again, let's just stop with nonsense like this. You know, this is what a Kenny Pickett is here for. This is what a Joe Flacco is here for. This is what the veteran offensive linemen are here for. I mean, this is just nonsense and the absolute highlight of let's just throw some crap against the wall and see what sticks, and maybe we'll get some views. Now to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers today acquired Jalen Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith from the Miami Dolphins. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, who began his career in South Beach with the Dolphins, is now being returned to the Miami Dolphins. The Steelers maybe could have been the second best team in the AFC North before this deal. Maybe they're still possibly the second best team in the AFC North now. I think a lot of that comes down to whether or not the Bengals can find anything that resembles a defense. The reason I think the Bengals are the second best team in the AFC North is because they have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I don't necessarily know that that's going to translate to wins. But for the Steelers, so it's now brought in Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers. You're really going all in. Now, here's the thing for Pittsburgh. Whatever you're doing and whatever you've done is not good enough to be better than the Baltimore Ravens. And I will say that Pittsburgh always plays the Ravens very well. I will give them credit for that. But you're not just going to hope you get a wild card berth in the AFC and go on a run. This conference is just way too strong. This conference is extremely littered with talented quarterbacks. It just seems odd that Pittsburgh is going this approach. It's like everything is on the table. I mean, I guess they did not learn anything from the 2023 New York Jets. The offensive line in Pittsburgh, you have a third-year left tackle. From center, right guard, right tackle, they are all second-year players. So you're trying to put this off, like an all-in, which it looks like. But the question is, certainly in some capacities for this team, certainly offensive line, you have absolute major questions, concerns. None of the young offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers outside of Zach Frazier at center have really made their mark in this league just yet. With bringing in Jonnu Smith, I guess now you're looking at a heavy amount of tight end usage. Pittsburgh was already heavy. Obviously, the offensive coordinator now, with his Tennessee roots, and which ties him to Jonnu Smith, certainly is a tight end guy. So a heavy amount of 12 personnel, which they're already doing. I think they were actually using 13 personnel. I think it was at 6% last year. You figure that number to jump even higher. I really wonder what's going on in Pittsburgh as far as the way the front office in Pittsburgh wants to do things, and maybe perhaps exactly how Mike Tomlin wants to do things. Because this certainly feels like for the Pittsburgh Steelers, if this does go well, then you're going probably back to the scrap board next year and trying to figure everything out, because it's going to be trying to find a quarterback and other things. But if this doesn't go well, and I honestly figured he'd be there forever, but if this doesn't go well, and a lot of this is maybe being driven by the front office and maybe even ownership as far as the team they're putting out here in 2025, Where does Mike Tomlin stand in all this? I mean, the Steelers have always had a long run at the quarterback position. Obviously, been now gone, Roethlisberger for a few years. Wouldn't you have went and found Tomlin's guy for the next decade? And they have not done that yet. Keep running guys in, running guys out. Fields and Wilson last year. Aaron Rodgers, certainly, for this season here in 2025. But if this flames out and goes terribly bad, which is 100% certainly a possibility, with these moves that they've made, I don't think necessarily just say, oh, well, Pittsburgh, they're highly going to be competing for that AFC Super Bowl bid. I don't think they can win the AFC North. Unlike 2023, I'm not sure you're going to get more than one playoff team out of this AFC North division. So there's a move like this and going all in and a decent probability of failure. Does this put them in a position where Mike Tomlin is kind of just like done in Pittsburgh? Because you would have understood that once Roethlisberger stepped away, there maybe would have been a rebuild, maybe a soft rebuild. Why you were trying to find that next franchise quarterback. But by now in 2025, the Steelers should have been already outside of that. And hopefully, for their sake, obviously, have their pieces in place and are now back to hopefully contending in 2025, as opposed to making all these wild dark horse moves. I mean, you just went from, and look, Minka Fitzpatrick closing out last year, 2025, wasn't at his best. There's folks that say, it could have been more internal. And maybe the unit wasn't playing as well together as they were early in 2025. And that certainly could have affected Minka Fitzpatrick's play. And that's certainly true. I mean, I can believe that. Obviously, Minka Fitzpatrick is one of the most hated men in Cleveland fandom, understandably so. But he's been, for the most part, a pretty damn solid football player. So the Dolphins take in Minka Fitzpatrick while moving on from Jonnu Smith, who gave them the greatest Miami Dolphins tight end season ever, and send Jalen Ramsey as well to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All the while, probably still the best overall player on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, TJ Watt, sitting there looking for his love, looking for his contract extension. He was on par with Miles, obviously. Miles got the first contract extension short time after TJ Watt got his contract extension. Miles has now gotten his second contract extension. And certainly TJ Watt is there waiting for his opportunity as well. I'm not sure, how much in the works it is. And of course, now they're trying to claim that there are people, other teams, gauging the interest of the Pittsburgh Steelers on a possible trade of TJ Watt. I mean, if you're the Steelers, at this point, I think you just got to give the guy his money. Because if you're moving on from TJ Watt, how exactly is this football team better? I would think you made the Rodgers move. You made this move today for Smith and Ramsey, and certainly when you made the move earlier for DK Metcalf. I think you would make all of these moves to put on top of having TJ Watt. Not so you could jettison him away. And again, if you want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers are better now than they were when the, you know, league season began, I won't disagree with you. But in order to make that mark and make significant noise in the AFC, this certainly is not enough. I just don't see how, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs are over there, or the Buffalo Bills, certainly the Ravens. Houston had a pretty strong offseason and draft. So now you're talking your basically top teams in each division within the AFC. I mean, this isn't like, oh my God, I don't get it. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old dad. But I just don't see how this team is, you know, it looks like it's all in move. But I mean, when you kind of look around at the rest of it, I don't know that it's going to equate to an all in move. Heck, you just put Juan Thornhill in a starting capacity. We all saw Juan Thornhill for the last 2 years. Does Jalen Ramsey maybe play some nickel corner and play free safety? That was the progression from Florida State into the NFL. I just don't know. I honestly just don't necessarily get this from the Steelers' vantage point. This is a team that should be looking to get younger, getting deeper, trying to find that way to get the next Pittsburgh Steelers franchise quarterback. This just feels like, you know, hey, Madden allowed the trade, so let's go ahead and do it. I fail to see the value in this deal as far as it being something that ultimately makes a difference in the fortunes of the Pittsburgh Steelers for the 2025 season. This one definitely drew a chuckle. Dylan Gabriel is now, I guess, partnering up and going to be the face, the pitch man for the, I believe it's a Pacifica minivan that he is certainly now become known for. Um, it's a smart move, and the reason I think it's a smart move is because I doubt very many pro athletes want to be associated with the minivan. So for Dylan Gabriel, this is kind of an untapped market. Nobody else wants to go do that. So go get your money, young man. I'm assuming this was probably the thought process when this all started at Oregon. And hey, good for Gabriel, right? And certainly the belief in Dylan Gabriel. And, I had heard this, from some folks who were out of the combine as well, that felt that teams were actually really kind of enamored with Dylan Gabriel. And it was within breaking down film, his whiteboard work. Certainly something that probably, drew the attention and eyes from head coach Kevin Stefanski. It's going to come down to what he does on the white lines, though. There's just no way around it. And look, this is why we've had so many top former college quarterbacks spend an eternity in the NFL, barely play, but still make a great living because they knew the position, they knew how to play it, and they excelled in that aspect of it. I just don't know that Dylan Gabriel is going to be able to take this step where his strengths and his talent are going to be enough to be a success within the NFL. It's fantastic to be smart. It's fantastic to have a great work ethic and be able to do all of these things, that translate to what would hopefully be success at the most important position in professional sports. Talent trumps all. We all know that. And I just don't know. And like people, oh well, he's got decent running ability. Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a lot different though. When everybody on the field is as fast as he is. I just don't think he has the overall talent that Shedeur Sanders has. I have people have questions about Shedeur and basically that the Colorado offense was kind of simplified because the wide receiver, who was the star, basically got the game plan on Friday night. The offensive line was piss poor. So the Colorado offense, I don't want to say was simplified. Maybe it was limited due to, lack of talent in certain aspects within that offense. Certainly wasn't the quarterback in the passing game, of course. But I pair that with, Dylan Gabriel, where, the Colorado offense was certainly, college offense on steroids. And I'm not sure how much of all of that is going to translate with what Dylan Gabriel did at Oregon to what the role and the expectation would be within the Cleveland Browns offense. I think I feel more comfortable knowing that more could be put on Shedeur Sanders' plate. And as far as finding more ways for his game to fit into the Cleveland Browns offense, I don't think they're going to, college football juice up the offense to accommodate, what Dylan Gabriel did at Oregon. It's it's the biggest talking point probably in Cleveland sports right now is, Shedeur, Dylan Gabriel. Is it any of them? Is it neither of them? If it's not, then who is it? How many college football games do we all have to watch this fall and try to find maybe the guy for the Cleveland Browns at the quarterback position? We're a couple of weeks away from training camp open up. I want to say 22nd. So essentially, 22, 23 days from today. And I think we're all just going to sit back, buckle up, and just watch how this unfolds. There's people like myself who believe the only real path for any shot at winning is Joe Flacco. Meanwhile, you get a lot of people who tell us the Browns seem to favor Kenny Pickett. I don't know if any of us really know what's true or what's not true. There's people like me who tell you, get Shedeur Sanders on the field as fast as possible so you can get, the ability to make the best possible determination. While there's others, who maybe are riding the faith or the belief that the Browns truly appreciating Dylan Gabriel's time at Oregon means that's going to be a legit opportunity for him to make waves here for the Cleveland Browns in 2025. Now, you guys all know this is where I'm at. I want to see the rookie quarterbacks play. And in a perfect first scenario for the Cleveland Browns in their future, one of these quarterbacks proves to be the guy. And we're talking about a third round pick and a fifth round pick. I mean, we'll call Shedeur a fifth round pick because that's what he was. Certainly not a fifth round pick, but for me, that's what it is. Can these guys find a way to prove that they can be, either one of them, the long-term option here? Because if you're going with Kenny or you're going with Joe Flacco, there's still what ifs everywhere. It's not just a scenario of which quarterback is best, because the best quarterback means the Cleveland Browns will be good. No. I mean, the offensive line has 4 starters, 30 years or older, has a left tackle in his third year who does not have much left tackle experience. They're going back to the system that they used to be a great unit in. But that doesn't necessarily just mean because they're going back to the old system that all of a sudden the Cleveland Browns offensive line is going to perform like a top 5 offensive line like they were in the early 2020s. Was Tillman's 3-week stretch last year a mirage? Or is that a sign of the type of ability and type of impact that Cedric Tillman can give you? I think Deontay Johnson to this point has shown some humility, and I think he's done a fairly good job of self-owning his wrongness and what went on in the last year and a half of his NFL life. He's still only 28 years old. Certainly could be an impactful piece for this team. The running backs, to just think that Judkins and Sampson both are going to hit the ground running as rookies, and that's going to all of a sudden just be this huge spark within the Browns offense. It'd be nice, but it's hard to just assume it's going to happen. Defensively, there, is Carson Schlesinger a day one ready guy? Because look, it's tough losing JOK. And certainly the reality of the matter could be that, it's not, we're just not losing JOK for 2025. I mean, there could be a solid reality that, this is the last JOK has ever played. I think there's a lot of questions at the safety position outside of Grant Delpit. You brought in certainly a couple of guys. You have Hickman here. The scenario is obviously that Ronnie Hickman steps up and starts performing, like a legit NFL free safety. But again, it's a question. We don't have any factual evidence that's going to prove this. We haven't seen it from Ronnie Hickman to this point on a consistent basis. There's certainly been flashes, and I don't want to take that away from him. But there are just questions about the Cleveland Browns everywhere, other than just the quarterback position. And, I think one of the worst things that could happen for the Cleveland Browns here in 2025 is when they do play the quarterbacks, and it's going to be more than one. We know it's going to be more than one. 3. Let's just hope it's not 4 and 5. That got a little old in the tooth, right? But what if, one of the things we start talking about during the season is, the quarterbacks aren't playing bad, but the Browns are, having some issues at other positional groups. Certainly could happen. We always appreciate you all for all your time that you give us over here at the OBR, coming here to read your favorite Cleveland Browns content from our fantastic group of writers. Joining us on the OBR streaming network every evening, beginning at 6 p.m., Browns 3D, hosted by myself. various shows throughout the week, but Monday through Friday, Browns 3D beginning at 6 o'clock here on the OBR streaming network. Make sure you are subscribed to the OBR on YouTube. Of course, make sure you're subscribed to the OBR over on Twitch. Give us some likes, give us some reviews, and do your best friend a favor. If they are not subscribed to the OBR, you go ahead, take their phone, and subscribe for them. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network, and we will talk to y'all tomorrow.